currency.
The New World Order.
Those are the roots of trouble.
I imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice, tumbling down the rabbit hole. Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life. That there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. But I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people.
And now, welcome to another episode of Down the Rabbit Hole. Here's your host from federaljack.com. It's Popeye.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another live edition. It is Friday, April 4th, 2014, and I am back from my week off. Wow, did I need that. Did not have enough time to get anything done, let alone normal life. So yes, I needed to take a couple extra days off. I had some things I had to take care of health-wise. I had some off-air interviews which I had lined up, which I had to do, and it was a good thing that I did have off because some of them went longer than planned, which is, anybody that listens knows that's par for the course with me when I do off-air interviews. Anyway, I got a bunch of off-air interviews done. I've been catching up on the archives. I had to, as you all remember last week, I had, of course, Skype sucks. And ever since their new updates, everybody and their mother that uses it for broadcasting purposes has had issues here and there. And we had a bit of a technical glitch last week. So I had to fix that interview with Renee Petro, which, by the way, is available up on federaljack.com. Please spread that interview out. Go listen to it again and spread it out. Listen to the powerful story about what her son goes through. And if you live in Florida, vote yes on 2. Full medical marijuana, full plant medical marijuana bill that's on the books, on the ballot for November. It's just stupid for us not to do it down here. It really is. There's so many sick and older people down here that could use it. I mean, everybody could benefit from it just using it as a dietary supplement. But anyway, I digress. So there's a few things I want to get into with you. And then at the 10:30 mark, I'm going to be joined by my two buddies from the Rundown Live, Kristan Harris and Mike Paczesny. The two of them are coming on and causing chaos and mayhem with me. So looking forward to getting those two on. They usually need about a half-hour buffer because they just literally finished their show about 4 or 5 minutes ago. So they need about a half-hour buffer. You know, they got to render their stuff, get everything together, stretch their feet, get a cup of coffee. So the half-hour mark, 10:30, Kristan and Mike are going to be coming on, and hour and a half of chaos and mayhem with the Rundown Live boys. Now, we're going to be going over a bunch of things, so always an interesting broadcast with those two. Anyway, so many things to go over that happened in the past week while I've been off. I mean, it's just ridiculous. The news about Flight 370, CNN will not let that go. Every day, there's in-depth coverage. As I said the last time I talked about this, the reason for that is because they're viewing sucks. Their viewership sucks. Their numbers are horrible. Their best show is a cooking show on the weekends. Anthony Bourdain's show where he travels around, and eats all different food, different cuisine all over the world. Yeah. It's not even news. A news network's highest rated show is a weekend show that has nothing to do with the news. What does that tell you? It tells you that nobody is going there for their news anymore because they've been caught lying so much. Same thing with MSNBC. I have more views on my YouTube channels. I have multiple channels. I have more views on my YouTube channels than MSNBC has on theirs. And I don't have any corporate funding. What does that tell you? No one listens to these people anymore. They're a joke. The mainstream media. No one believes their crap. That's why they have to talk about conspiracy theories with the plane. Why do you think they're focusing so much on conspiracy theories and stuff? And they're actually humoring these theories and giving them at least some airtime where people are talking about them. Well, maybe it was hijacked and taken to Diego Garcia. Maybe it was, shot down. Maybe it was this. Maybe it was that. They're actually talking about them as if they're a possibility. You never see that, do you? Ever. When was the last time you saw that? Any other time they talk about conspiracy theories, it's always in the pejorative. Those crazy tinfoil hatters. Oh, those 9/11 truthers. People think that the government's actually against them. Pfft, the government would never hurt you. But because their ratings depend on talking about it, because they've exhausted every other option with this plane, because it supposedly hasn't been found yet, right? Well, that's why. It's a joke. These people are a joke. CNN, you're a joke. Anderson Cooper, you're a joke. And the rest of them, Don Lemon and all of them over there, jokes. Every single one of you. News network, highest rated shows, Anthony Bourdain's cooking channel on weekends. Wah, 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 wah. So, what's been going on in the wide, wide world of sports while I've been gone? What kind of craziness has been going on? Let's take a look. Let's see what I want to rant about before the Rundown Live boys come on, because I got a bunch of things I want to pick their brains about, including there's an article I'm going to read with them on air. It's 10 things Idiocracy predicted would happen and sadly already have. And it's from a website called mandatory.com. It's under the entertainment section, but this is actually a well put together article for being in the entertainment section. This is actually more of this should be on the front page in the news section, but of course they'll just, because it talks about idiocracy. Anyway, I want to pick their brains about that. But first, let's see. Thousands of artifacts removed from rural Indiana home. This is from the Indy Star. FBI agents Wednesday removed thousands of cultural artifacts, including American Indian items, from the private collection of a 91-year-old Rush County man who had acquired them over the past 8 decades. So that would be since he was about 11 years old. An FBI command vehicle and several tents were spotted at the property in rural Waldron, about 35 miles southeast of Indianapolis. However, the FBI was careful not to say whether they believed the man, Don Miller, had knowingly broken any laws. The FBI's aim is to catalog the artifacts and return them to their countries of origin. Wait a minute. Hold on. It starts off that paragraph with, however, the FBI was careful not to say whether they believed the man had knowingly broken any laws. So, you're not saying that he's broken any laws, and I've seen other reports about this, and it's saying that he didn't break any laws, and that the FBI is saying that, no, he didn't break any laws, but we want to catalog all of his items and return them to their rightful countries of origin. But wait a minute. If he acquired them, and it was not through violating any laws, then why are you taking said items out of his collection? Well, they belong to... Hold up. I'm very understanding about sensitivity when it comes to Native American issues, things like that, and if it was something very sacred or something. But the man or his family, which has happened with other collections and collectors, they usually, when that person dies, the family that inherits it oftentimes will either donate it to a museum or try to find the tribes, or like if it's American Indian type stuff, they'll try to find the tribes or the descendants of that tribe and try to give them back this stuff, which happens as well. But this guy didn't die yet. He's still alive. The FBI is saying that, again, however, the FBI was careful not to say whether they believe the man had knowingly broken any laws. So if he had broken laws, because let's be honest, we know how the government works, if he had actually broken a law, they would have had skywriters flying around writing the code, chapter and verse in the sky above the raid so that the news cameras could read it in the sky if they'd like to. I mean, they would have been all over everything. They would have been pointing to their little statutes and all this other crap, and that none of that happened. None of that happened. They're just there with some tents, covering up the entranceway to a building on the property. And it wasn't like he kept the stuff in his basement. Apparently the guy, it wasn't museum quality, but it was like one step below it, according to one of the articles I read. That the guy did take good care, and he made efforts to take good care of the artifacts that he had in his collection. So it doesn't look like the guy was collecting it to sell and make money. He probably liked it for his own personal reasons. Maybe he was... some people just collect them for the thrill of the discovery. Some people collect stuff like that for other reasons, including they're history buffs. I mean, I have some old. I collect pieces of history here and there. I have a few interesting tidbits here and there people have either given me or I've acquired over the years, and some interesting pieces of history. They might not be linked to a certain historical figure, but they're linked. Many of them are linked to historical time periods. It doesn't mean I obtained them illegally, and I know I didn't buy them from anybody that was a hot antiquities dealer. So I don't know. Explain to me what this guy did wrong. Again, if he violated someone's tribe's, personal space and stole stuff or bought something from somebody that stole it, well, then that would be acquiring it through illegal means. Now, if he paid somebody to rob and dig up Indian burial mounds or things like that, or steal artifacts and things like that from other places or from holy places or things, I can understand that. But I don't think that's what happened. I mean, maybe the guy acquired items from people that were bad to get them away from people like that and to give them a safe home. I mean, there are people out there that are like that too. They're all about the historical preservation of said items, and some people view it as their goal to do it. We really don't know much. They're not really giving us too much information. All the articles I've read about it's been very sketchy. But my point is, why are you going to the guy's home if he didn't and taking the artifacts if he didn't violate any laws? They said their goal, it says the FBI's aim is to catalog the artifacts and return them to their countries of origin. But if he didn't get them through illegal means, they are his property. It doesn't matter if they originated in another country. Unless they're a historical artifact which was stolen, which then that would mean that it was acquired through illegal means. So that previous statement about they don't think, they were careful not to say whether or not there was illegal means. And then all the other articles I've read so far on this say the guy didn't acquire the stuff through illegal means. It's been a well-known about collection, in his family, by his family and friends and anybody that knew the person for years, and that he doesn't secretly collect stuff. I mean, he had built a building, I guess, on the property that was built specifically to house a lot of this stuff. So... And I think there was actually, two separate buildings in one of the articles I read that was being used to house everything in the collection, which if he has that much stuff over 80-something years, I would guess, yeah. That he probably does have a massive collection. But again, what business of it is the FBI's that they come in and, we're going to catalog everything and return it to the countries of origin. But how do you know it was done illegally? Well, we don't think it was. Okay, so you're just coming in and taking the guy's property. Well, it belongs, these are artifacts from another country. But if the guy didn't acquire them illegally, it means that they were acquired through the proper legal channels, whatever those may be. There is no there's no justification. It's theft. I mean, it's outright theft. Unless you give me a reason, if the guy's an antiquities, thief and he robbed holy sites or sacred places and things like that, well, then fine, take this stuff and give it back to the people. I'm all for it. I mean, that's actually government doing what they're supposed to do, right? Or what they say that they're there for, to protect you, to take care of you. But that's not what this is. Thousands of artifacts removed from rural Indiana home. Well, why? Why were they removed? Why won't you tell us anymore? And they're saying it's going to take months to go through everything. So then, why? You can't give us a reason. You can't just tell us, "Oh, we think the guy acquired this stuff through black market means, and we're going to make sure." Blah 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 blah. Really? You're going to repatriate the stuff? You sure you're not going to collect a reward? Maybe sell any of it? You don't think that maybe the feds would take it and try to sell that stuff, depending on what it was, here or there? Oh, they could never do that. Really? They could never do that? Right. Just like they could never confiscate your car, your home, or anything else that you own, any other items of property you might own. Right. Right. Sure. Right. They could never, ever confiscate that. Right. Sure. Sure. This is really weird. I'm a history buff, so I kind of feel for the guy if he's not doing anything and they're just going in there and taking his collection. I mean, what about his kids? Well, Popeye, those are artifacts. Again, if he didn't acquire them through illegal means, if he did, then shame on him and they should take them. End of story. But if it wasn't sacred stuff that was stolen from people like, American Indian tribes, or again, if it's something sacred that belongs to the American Indian tribes, then give it back to them. Or the Native American tribes, give it back to them. That's fine. I agree with it. If it's something that was stolen from a tribe from another country or whatever, or some other country's historical thing, that's fine. But there's a lot of stuff that could be a piece of history that maybe is not a historical artifact of the country's history per se, but maybe from a time period in that country. What about that? Well, it doesn't matter. These were probably acquired through, Rabble. We're just going to take it. Rabble. I mean, that's theft. That's theft. It's blatant theft. This pissed me off. Again, I'm not an art collector or an art dealer or anything. I mean, I like art. I love art and everything else, but and I love antiquities and all that. But I don't have the money to collect any of that stuff. But still, it doesn't mean I can't get mad at watching someone else's rights getting violated. That's just wrong. It's absolutely 100% wrong. I mean, there's no other way to put it. They're robbing the guy. But that's par for the course with the government, huh? Par for the course. So, moving on. I want to get into a few other things. One thing before I forget has nothing to do with conspiracy. Has nothing to do with politics. Nothing at all whatsoever. Not a thing. What does it have to do with? It has to do with your cat. I'm going to talk about this for about 2 minutes and then I'm going to move on. But I made a video, a little more in-depth video. You can go find it over on Federal JackTube 6. It's titled The Physical Consequences of Declawing Your Cat. And you should go watch the video. But I really urge you, and I'll throw it, if you have a cat or if you're going to maybe get a cat in the future, I'll throw the link in the chat room window. And no, this isn't conspiracy or politic related, but doesn't mean I can't talk about it. If you're going to get a cat, don't declaw them in the front. I know you're worried about your carpet and your security deposit and everything else, or your couch, but honestly, if you're going to get a cat, train it from the time you get it to getting used to being held, and then start to rub your fingers and your thumb and your forefinger around its paws and get it used to you holding its paws, and then get a nail trimmer. You don't have to trim them all the way back. You could trim them once a week if you want to, if you're comfortable doing it that way. Because you don't want to nick the quick, which is the red blood-like center of the nail. It's the same thing on a dog. Go watch a YouTube video on how to clip dog or cat fingernails. It's not that hard. I mean, anything can be learned very quickly nowadays. It's not like it was 20 years ago. And just trim the cat's nails. Okay, I have 3 cats myself. One of them is declawed in the front, and that was done 14 years ago. This was well before I knew the truth about declawing, and he was my mother's cat, so I actually didn't have it done to him. But it's still no excuse. And if my mother, once she found out what declawing actually was, she felt horrible, and she refused to, while she was still alive, she refused to have any more cats declawed herself. Anyway, if you research the subject, you will see what it does to the cat's claws. And again, I'll drop a link to an article about it in the chat room. It's devastating, orthopedic wise, to their paws. What it does. I mean, literally, if you want an idea, just take your hand, look at your hand, take a pair of tin snips, and look at the first knuckle, which is where your little fingertip bends. Right up at the tip of the finger, that little bendy knuckle joint right behind your finger nail, right about a half an inch behind your fingernail right there. See that little sucker there? Yeah, there's your finger, right? Okay, take a pair of tin snips and just snip that little bastard off right there at the tip. Off goes your fingertip. That's the equivalent of what you do when you declaw a cat. Now do that to all 5 of your fingers on each hand. Tell me, you think you can hold a pencil, operate your computer, use your mouse, use your cell phone, use anything that you use, missing the initial tip of your fingers? You think chopping off a digit is painful? You think that might cause some tendon and nerve damage and some scar tissue buildup and some problems down the road with the rest of your joints? Because now joints that aren't supposed to be direct load-bearing joints, that are supposed to bear the load, but in compliance with other joints doing it, now it's a single load-bearing joint, and it's not supposed to be. It wasn't intended by nature to become that. That's what happens when you cut off that little knuckle piece, because the way of their paws are shaped, that knuckle kind of bends. Picture if you put your hand like on a desk in front of you or on your lap and kind of put it on an angle, like bend your fingertips, push down towards the desk, but you like arch your hand so that way your fingertips are on the desk, but the palm kind of arches up away from it. Okay. Now, while you have your hand like that, imagine an extra little knuckle piece sticking off of the tip of your finger with a claw. That's basically how the cat's claw and foot sits, like a little L like that, right? With kind of an elongated back angle to it. Well, when you snip off that front piece, now that's gone, and now the way the tendons and everything sit, instead of that piece being on a nice, angle going from top to bottom, right? Now that angle is directly up and down, and there's load being applied, a direct load being applied to that joint where that knuckle was severed from. So not only is the knuckle severed and the tendons and everything are gone, but now you're forcing the cat to put all its weight on its front paws, which hold up, I think from my research, I think it's like 60% of the cat's weight, something like that. So it holds up, we'll say 50-60% of the cat's weight on the front paws, and now you're forcing them to literally stand on their little, like the tips of their knuckles. So cut your fingertip off, at that first knuckle, take a pair of tin snips, cut it off, just literally snip that little bad boy off, or imagine, obviously don't really do it, but imagine doing it, and then imagine after it's healed and it's all scar tissued up and painful and everything else, now imagine that you have to walk on that, and that has to bear the load as you walk. Yes. That's what declawing a cat does. Why did I go into that graphic detail for a few minutes? Well, because I'm trying to get people to realize what it is. It's inhumane. It's brutal. It's barbaric. Why do we do it? Because we don't want our carpets getting messed up, or our couch, or our furniture. So get them a scratching post and teach yourself and them to accept you cutting their nails. Look, if you have a cat, you're going to get cuts. Don't have a cat if you don't want to bleed. Just the way it is. They have claws. You're going to get cut once in a while. You have to get the cat comfortable with you holding it. You also have to get comfortable with holding the cat. Half the time animals freak out because their animals are so uncomfortable and they're so jammed up. They put off that vibe and the animal picks it up. Why is it easier for a professional to do it? Because the professionals are calm, cool, and collected, and the animal can sense that. So they, even if they're excited or nervous, they still remain a lot calmer than they would with you, because you're putting off that vibe that, oh my God, I'm going to hurt the cat, oh my God, and you're all jammed up, and then they can feel that energy. So you have to train yourself as much as you have to train that cat to accept you trimming its nails. Don't be a dick owner. Don't get an animal if you're not going to take care of it, okay? It's just that simple. Don't get a cat and then be like, well, I don't want to trim its nails, but I don't want to have to deal with the couch getting ripped up and everything else, so I'm just going to get it declawed. Now, I've had declawed cats in the past. I did it myself before, to a few of one of my other cats that she passed away, but she was declawed as well. And if I had known now, or known then what I know now, I wouldn't have done it to her. So I'm telling you people, it's cruel what they do to those animals when they remove they declaw them. It's the equivalent of taking a pair of tin snips to your little first knuckle and cutting off your fingertip, and then asking you to go operate a calculator or your iPhone or the computer or a mouse. Okay, you're not going to be able to do so. And even once it heals up, yeah, you might be able to do so after it heals up, but you're going to have to relearn, and it's going to be painful. And for the rest of your life, you're going to have to deal with that. And it ends up giving cats arthritis. They end up getting osteoarthritis in their paws. It's just horrific. Like I said, I'll drop the link in the into the chat room. If you go over to federaljack.com, or if you go over to Truth Frequency Radio to the Listen Live page for the radio show, there is chat rooms over there. I just literally dropped it in as I was talking to you there. So that's my rant on pets. We got the break sneaking up on us in about a minute, but if you're gonna get a cat, think about the entire details. If you're gonna get any pet, think about the entire details. It's called responsibility. Don't get an animal and then think that you don't have to take any responsibility for it. You most certainly have to take responsibility for that animal. It's just like having a child, just like having a little human child, except this one's not a human. It's furry and got 4 legs. Still depends on you to feed it and give it love and take care of it. Same basic principles, except it's not a human being. Anyway, we're going to break. Stay tuned. We'll be back in a few short minutes. When we come back, we'll be live with the guys from the Rundown Live. Don't go anywhere. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. Bottom of the hour, 10:30 mark. You know what that means. My 2 good buddies from the Rundown Live are joining me. Kristan and Mike, you guys there?
Yep, we are here. What's up, Popeye? How's everybody doing tonight?
The double trouble from the Rundown Live, ladies and gentlemen.
We're not used to being up this late on Friday evenings.
Yeah, you guys are normally going to bed at this time, right?
Yeah, our show ends and then we tuck each other in and we go to bed.
Don't even.
Oh, wow.
I'm joking.
Kristan just started the worst internet rumor about you two ever.
Way to start the show.
We live in a different area. And I definitely love women. Women have beautiful bodies. Mike doesn't have a beautiful body.
Popeye, it starts right away, doesn't it?
It's late.
You see why I like having you guys on? Especially you guys are a perfect Friday, hangout group.
Is it a Freaky Friday?
We always like to have fun, right? But we do cover real news as you do. We're not just messing around all the time.
No, your show's great. I told you guys. I even said this the last time I had you guys on. I actually do listen to your radio show when I'm working on my archives and stuff, and when I'm doing graphic design work and stuff on the back end, working on Federal Jack, whatever. I put your show on. I'll open it up in YouTube in a window, and then I'll go back to doing whatever else I'm doing. But I'll listen and have you guys on in the background. You guys always seem to get some interesting guests, to say the least.
Yeah, I think. Go ahead, Kristan.
I was going to say, Mike and I come from very different backgrounds, so we were able to get different guests from completely different types of fields, per se. Mike is more of an activist, so he's really on the grassroots, on the ground. And I have more of an entertainment background, so I'm in there getting like these Klaus Dana History Channel people type deal. Mike has some pretty great friends too as well that we've gotten on, but we started out with our group of friends, people like you, Popeye, which is we love having you on as well. Thanks for having us on, and we kind of go from there. And Mike and I, since we have different backgrounds, it really comes into a crazy duel, per se.
You guys have a good flow together. I like your show. You guys do. You guys have an interesting flow.
I don't even know why anybody would listen, Popeye, honestly.
No, honestly, because you guys are a fresh change of pace. It's a breath of fresh air.
I just try to be myself. Honestly, what you get is what you hear right now. This would be like if
that's why people tune in
the room together, right?
And we don't take the medication either. I mean, that's why I have this ADHD and I can't even complete a sentence half the time.
I don't think any of us take our ADHD medication in the truth movement. I don't think any of us do.
Some of us need it though.
I hate that word.
We don't need to say any names, though.
I hate the word movement. I just
I'm on the other side of
this
microphone.
I cannot stand the word movement. Ugh. It's not really a movement. It's just people waking up, and it's humanity awakening. That's what I like to call it, because then it's pretty hard to co-opt the awakening of humanity. It's easy to co-opt the movement, but it's pretty hard to co-opt the awakening of humanity, although they're trying.
Especially when it sounds like a song title. You got the movement, It's just awful.
Wait, can you do that again for me?
No.
We need to roll
I
back the
charged the
sound
second
clip.
one.
Producer, where's the producer? He needs to roll it back. No, but I feel the same way, Popeye. I use the terminology to describe it sometimes. A lot of times I use like the air quotes when I say movement. But it's hard else. What else do you call it? Because it is a group of people, but yet we're not tied together in any way other than the fact, like you just mentioned, Popeye, that we're just all kind of in a process of awakening at different phases, though.
But I think it could be actually called the revival of 1776 because it is a revival of constitutional standards and the awakening of the Bill of Rights and how far we have come from those. So I think a revival is a great word. And even though the word movement, I don't like the word movement either. I think the word revival fits in well because that's exactly what is happening.
I think it's even beyond constitutional
Well, it's human rights.
Yeah,
right?
well, see, the Constitution, a lot of people, this is one of the things I have an argument with people about when it comes to the Constitution. And they'll say, well, the Constitution grants us. No, it doesn't grant us anything. It enumerated our rights that we were already granted to us by the creative force, whatever you want to call it, God, the great mystery, whatever, okay? You want to think science, the Big Bang, it does not matter. Wherever we came from, wherever our soul comes from, that's what grants us these rights. The rights of self-protection, right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, as long as you're not violating someone else's rights. That is the side caveat of that. But yeah, we don't, as a whole, a lot of people don't think of it even like that. They're like, well, if we could just keep the Constitution, it would be perfect. No, the Constitution's a piece of paper, okay? And this is going to piss a lot of people off when I say this. It's a piece of paper that enumerates our rights, and guess what? The government hasn't listened to it for a very, very long time, almost since, well, the inception of this country, pretty much. I mean, you go back, even George Washington ignored it to a certain degree. All of them did at one point or another when it suited them. Okay, whether it was for the country's better good or not, the point is that the Constitution really hasn't been adhered to since the inception of this country, okay, in one way, shape, or form. So ideally, no, this country really hasn't been running ever the way it should be, but we don't really need a Constitution to tell us what to do. I think if we keep looking to go back to things, that's going to be a problem. Although I get what you mean, Kristan, but I mean like to the uninitiated, not guys like you or Mike, but to the people that are just waking up to maybe buy into the Glenn Beck crap or the faux conservative crowd, the Marco Rubio, PNAC supported crowd, all them, they're going to be like, yes, and they usually say this, we should go back to the way things were. No, we are evolving.
Before civil rights.
Yeah, well, it's like, dude, we're evolving. You can't go backwards. It's just we have to go forward. What we can do is, as we go forward, we can learn from the mistakes of the past. So we understand, that we have certain unalienable inherent rights, and that's the way it is. Now, if we try to roll things back, that's going back to like an old way of thinking. Think back to the way people used to think 30, 40, 50 years ago. They weren't so open-minded about everything. And I'm not saying, they're not progressive or trendy. I'm saying that they weren't really open-minded at all about anything. I mean, 40, 50 years ago, that was the same mindset that, oh my God, if the Mexicans and the blacks smoke marijuana, they're going to rape all the white women and burn the town down. I mean, that's the same kind of retarded thinking that was going on back then. So I don't think we should go back, but I think we should learn from our mistakes, learn from the negative stuff, and try to, as we evolve, make a better positive future. I think that people waking up to the Constitution, though, Kristan, is great because there's so many people, like the younger generations, that don't even know their ass from their elbow, let alone what rights are, why the Constitution enumerated the rights. So, it is a good thing that people are looking towards that, but I can see that the powers that shouldn't be are going to try to hijack that. You can see PNAC already doing it. Look at Marco Rubio running around with his New American Century. He's literally running around saying, my idea for a New American Century, well, all you got to do is put the word project before it, and you have PNAC. The people that brought us 9/11, the Iraq War, Bush, Cheney.
Sounds like a bunch of good stuff there.
Oh, so much fun.
A lot of miniature 9/11s to make everybody happy. That's what we need. Isn't that what the government wants?
I think it would probably be easier for them to handle than another big one. You want to be
well,
honest?
yeah, that's why all the events that have been, minuscule in comparison to that type of event. But no, you're definitely right, Popeye. I agree with you as far as the terminology. Again, revival. It's it's a little too much for me. With the internet, it's changed everything. So you can't really revive anything that happened pre-internet. It really is a new age, and not in the sense of a religion.
Well, did the internet not revive freedom of speech though? I
think it brought a new aspect to it.
Well, definitely. I think that, you're right. It did bring a new aspect to it, and definitely it gives the people an outlet to actually still have free speech. That's how we're able to have great programs like yours, Popeyes, and ours, the Rundown Live. The internet. It's great that we still have the ability to have a free market still, such as the internet. I mean, that's the only thing that left that is free in America. Essentially.
Yeah, well, they're trying to. Well, that won't be for too long either, because they're trying to give it to the UN. And look, as soon as the UN gets a hold of the internet, then they'll be like, well, you know what? We're going to make the internet. We're going to make it so that the internet has to be, subject to SOPA or PIPA or whatever the hell legislation that they decide to pass. Remember, just because they could have a treaty on internet censorship and say 15, 20, 30, 40 countries in the UN sign it. And normally our country wouldn't sign it, and because we control the internet and by not signing on to it, then, well, you're kind of SOL. Well, if we give them control of the internet, if the UN could pass whatever internet censorship laws that they desire and then clamp down on the internet, so you just can't get there anymore. Like, suddenly you wouldn't be able to upload your shows to the Rundown Live website anymore one day, or I wouldn't be able to upload it to federaljack.com, and we'd be blocked. And it would say, by order of the UN, this website has been removed from the internet because it violates Speech Protection Act, blah, 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 or whatever.
Well, they already kind of do that. I mean, they already kind of do take over domains and things like that for copyright issues and other things. So it's not far-fetched.
We actually saw one of our channels deleted, Liberty Defined, which actually got us a lot of hits. And that was right after YouTube mentioned that they're going to be tightening up on their censorship. So, and it's just convenient that they got hit real hard, not only there, but on Facebook 2 days earlier also.
Yeah, YouTube's they're horrible with their censorship. It's ridiculous. And I know when his channel got shut down, because the night that it happened, they were doing you can tell when YouTube's closing a massive amount of channels or censoring a large amount of channels, because it'll be one of those nights where you go to upload something and they're like, that function's been disabled. Well, YouTube's updating its database or updating its server or whatever the hell it says. When you see that and it's got that little red line across the top, like you can't use that function, that's when they're deleting accounts.
The line of death.
Yeah, every time that they go in there and they're you try to upload something or whatever, and suddenly your account will say that function's disabled right now because YouTube's doing maintenance or whatever. Whenever you see that message about YouTube doing maintenance on its servers or whatnot, and that's why you can't upload, and you can maybe watch a video, but that's it. You can't upload anything or whatnot. That's because they're deleting accounts. Because every time that they've done that, every time, either I've had an account deleted or someone I know's had an account deleted. Every time since I've been dealing with YouTube for over 5-6 years now, at least, well over 6 years. Wow. So every time an account back in 2008. Remember the purge of 2008?
I think this is similar to that. This was a massive update, and they just hit a bunch of people. And not to mention, they introduced the flagging program, and that's why Mark Dice got taken out, Liberty Defined. I'm sure there were smaller channels that didn't get any attention. There are people listening probably right now, oh yeah, my channel got deleted, yeah. And you just don't have the following, then you kind of get lost. And you're not exactly, able to just get your channel back from YouTube, as, Popeye knows. They don't just like to give it back. And if you do get it back, it's not in the way that they took it from you any sense.
Yeah, giving the trollers the tools to, get you banned. We talk about that a lot with our Reddit. But, we get censored through Reddit often. They like to block our accounts and our information. In fact, they have bots that down us almost one for one. So let's say if we had 30 votes up, they'll have a bot that votes us 30 down because they are not that interested in our information getting popular. So it's very interesting on the censorship aspect on the internet and the attack that has been brought to the liberty movement through the censorship of the internet. So it's very disturbing. Hopefully, though, things in more product like private internet access or a VPN scramblers that allow us to surf the internet anonymously are out there to help us fight this censorship. And I think you'll see a lot of that. A lot of new entrepreneurs. I'm having a verbal disaster here. And entrepreneurship. You'll see a lot of businesses come out of this. They'll deal with privacy, giving us privacy on the internet and allowing us to do these things and surf anonymously and be able to conversate and still have our privacy. So I guess it all ties into all that stuff. So
we need someone rich to make a new YouTube, but like make it like YouTube used to be. Remember when it was ghetto and crappy, and it wasn't.
I'm a big fan of LiveLeak. Are you a
LiveLeak.
fan of LiveLeak?
Yeah, well, I know somebody that helped create it back in the day, and yeah, LiveLeak is great, but the problem is not many people know about it. So, if more people had, I shouldn't say not many. A lot of people know about it, but not as many as YouTube.
It's a much smaller community, whereas YouTube's almost like a television station.
Well, that's why. It's the only reason I've stayed at YouTube, Mike. Everybody says, why do you stay at YouTube? Well, throughout the years when I've had, I've had multiple channels shut down. Why do you stay, Popeye? Why do you stay? I've had, you even get the other YouTubers will eventually say to you, you should just quit and go to Vimeo or LiveLeak. That's where I'm going. And a lot of people did. And they left YouTube altogether. But you're not reaching that many people. YouTube is like, what, the number 2 or 3 site in the world?
And it always has potential to go viral, even if it doesn't right away. There's a lot of gems, especially on these like radio shows like yourself and others. So a lot of times things don't get seen right away, and it'll be there until YouTube has a problem and they just decide to remove your entire channel.
Well, dude, I did a show on the Titanic, and every year I do a show on about the Titanic around the anniversary, which is actually coming up. And I expose what I think, how it's connected to the Federal Reserve, and I've been doing this for years.
Do you play the Celine Dion song?
No, I don't torture my my listeners like that. In fact, Celine and Justin Bieber should both be deported back to Canada. But I'll talk about the Titanic or whatnot, and this one episode I did on it, I did a show on it, and I think initially got a couple hundred views, 500, 600, 700 views, whatever. And then, of course, you see the view count always stop. It's always interesting how it stops in the first couple hundred. And then, all of a sudden one day it'll update itself and it'll have 50,000 views. And you're like, holy crap, where did that come from? It certainly didn't happen overnight. Sometimes it does, but more often than not, it's because they suppress the view count. But anyway, I did this show about the Titanic, and the first year it was up, it had, maybe 700 views, whatever. And then the following year was the 100-year anniversary, and it was getting hits all over the place. It got posted on the Huffington Post under their weird news section and all over the place. The videos got, 500,000 hits. The show I did now, it's got like 500,000 hits or something, or over 500,000 hits. And it's on YouTube. Like, that wouldn't have happened on Vimeo or any of these other ones. I'm sorry, it wouldn't have. It sucks, but it wouldn't have.
At least not as easily either.
Well,
no.
And anything with the Titanic is going to be popular. Did you ever think about the conspiracy with it being switched with the Olympic, where they actually painted the Titanic?
It's a twofold aspect of it. That's
awesome.
Yeah, a lot of people, when they look into the conspiracy of it, they go, well, it's either one or the other.
It's insurance fraud.
Well, but why wouldn't it be both? Why couldn't it be both? Especially if you understand how these people work. I think it's actually about 3/4 of each conspiracy mixed together, and that's what really happened. I've done a ton of shows about it over the years. It's one of the very first conspiracies that I looked into that I thought. When I first got into 9/11, I originally was like, all right, something's odd, but come on, these conspiracy theorists that are saying that the towers were brought down, they're crazy. And then I was like, oh wow, they're not crazy. Holy crap. But when someone told me about the Titanic, it was a listener that mentioned it to me years and years and years ago. And they said, hey, Popeye, you should check into this. And I saw it, and I was like, oh, my God. They've got to be insane. The Titanic, really? Come on. Everything is not a freaking conspiracy. Until I started looking into it, and I was like, J.P. Morgan owns the White Star Line? Come on. Who was on board the ship? John Jacob Astor? Come on. You know what I mean? Like, you start looking at the, Guggenheim, come on. You start looking at the other people, Isidor Straus. They wouldn't have gone along with the formulation of a Federal Reserve System, which came about like a year later after the Titanic sank. Wow, isn't that interesting? Wow. Not that they would have been against it to save America. It just would have destroyed their bottom line fortunes, and they wouldn't have stood for that because they wouldn't have want to become made poor or change their way of living or been absorbed because of this. And then the Astor fortune ended up becoming absorbed anyway by J.P. Morgan interests afterwards. And the Astor family is otherwise known as the Vanderbilt family, and that would be the blood lineage of Mr. CIA Anderson Cooper, whose mother is Gloria Vanderbilt. Yes, that's right.
Well, it goes deep, man. That's a deep one.
It goes way back.
Honestly, to just be perfectly honest, I didn't know any of that. I'm not big on the Titanic.
I'll shoot you some links to the shows I did.
I've heard this. I've heard people mention it, but it's just something to me like I've never researched enough.
Well, I think it was there's two competing conspiracy theories. That one, it was done, they sunk it on purpose just to kill these specific individuals, and then the other one is that they did it to switch, for an insurance fraud. Which, by the way, that theory dates all the way back to, the day the ship sank, even before it sank, when it made its first port call, and the initial crew switched out, and they got a whole new fresh crew, and then sailed on into history. Well, this theory of it being switched out with the Olympic goes all the way back to then. So it's not like some dude in his basement made it up. I mean, this goes back to the people that were on board the ship, the firemen and the boilermen. So there's that, and then there's once you understand who owned it and everything else, and the whole aspect of the Federal Reserve, and it's hard to contemplate that they would do that until you understand what they did with 9/11.
There's a lot of people who benefited from
exactly.
it.
Like, well, they wouldn't kill all those people. Really? Look what they did in New York City. They brought down 2 buildings, actually 3 buildings. But
that could have been a trap shoot too, if the right person wanted to sabotage that. Just coming from a conspiracy point of view,
the captain of the ship,
people happen to be on the ship, and then it just happens to go down.
Captain Smith was also the captain of the Olympic, and he had gotten into an accident with the Olympic. That's why the Olympic was weakened, and that's where the whole switch thing comes from, the insurance fraud thing comes from. I mean, I've gone into I'm kind of like nutshelling it, making it short, abbreviated version. But if you go, I'll send you the link so you can listen to the shows I did about it. There's actually a lot of evidence to support this, that they did switch it. But the way I look at it is, not only were they doing that for the insurance fraud, but they also figured, hey, we can kill 2 birds with 1 stone, because that's the kind of thing that they do. That's the way these people think. And for someone usually the question I get is, well, come on, do you really think that they would sink the ship just to kill a couple of people? They've shot down airliners to kill 1 individual that was on board an airliner with 200 and some odd people. You really think they care about collateral damage? We invaded Iraq, and there's over 1 million people dead because of sanctions and the invasion and depleted uranium and everything else. You really think that they care about a couple thousand people? They do not care. The end justify the means to these people. And besides, this stuff, like the Titanic, just so happens to coincide with this, high satanic Holy Week where they always do sacrifices. Abe Lincoln's assassination, the Titanic,
what year did
the Boston Marathon bombing. If I remember correctly, it was 1912.
12?
Yeah, April 14th, 1912, wasn't
it? And then the following year is when the Federal Reserve came into play, 1913.
And then you also have like World War One.
Then World War One happened, then World War II, and now they're trying to do World War III. So I mean, when you research there was a book called Futility: Wreck of the Titan, which actually forecasted the whole wreck beforehand. I'm going to send you the link to the listeners. Just go in my archive section on Federal Jack and scroll through. I've done one every year. So there's one from 2011. There's 2 I think I did in 2011. I did 1 or 2 in 2012 because that was the 100-year anniversary. And then last year in 2013, Steve Stars and I did. But my friend Steve Stars, who's a broadcaster, he comes on with me because he's the one that we did the first one together. Back when I first started radio, because he investigated it too. And every year that we've done a show on it, it's just something we do every year to mark the anniversary, and we talk about the conspiracy. And every year, like one time we did open lines, and some guy called in, and he was like, oh yeah, I know one of my family members was on it, and blah, 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 blah. And then another guy called in and gave us some information about a documentary that we should go check out because it's made some interesting comments. James Cameron is quoted when he's talking about the where the Titanic is, the wreck site. He called it a crime scene. He didn't call it a wreck site. He said that the wreck scene of the site itself could be considered a crime scene. That's kind of odd. How come nobody bothered to press him on that statement? I mean, that's kind of a bold statement. I would have been like, well, what makes you say that? Nobody asked him that.
You mean the director, James Cameron?
Yeah,
right?
I mean, he spent. People can laugh and say, James Cameron, who the hell is he? Well, that guy spent so much money making Titanic and got so interested in doing submersible dives that he's like one of the. Now he's got like some of the. I'd say probably the highest amount of underwater hours as a submariner in those little submersibles. That dude knows what he's talking about when it comes to dive wrecking, or wreck diving, and especially in those tiny little submersibles and stuff. He might be a movie director and all this, but when it comes to that, he knows his stuff. He spent a lot of money and a lot of time doing that. So it's just interesting that he would make the comment about it being a crime scene. What are you talking about it being a crime scene? Why would it be a crime scene? And no one's ever really asked him to elaborate on that. I just thought it was interesting. But yeah, there's a lot of evidence to support that, yes, they did do the insurance fraud thing, and that not only did they do that, but the people that owned it were, in both cases, this is like, as an investigator, if you were going to look into both things, you would try to see, out of both theories, what lines up, what facts line up, what things match. The owner of the White Star Line was J.P. Morgan. And, in both cases, the insurance fraud and in the idea that they were going to take out certain people and get rid of the ship, or want to kill people on, certain people on board the ship. Well, J.P. Morgan would benefit in both cases.
It also makes sense, though, that, these individuals would have ownership of these items. You know what I mean? Because they are the most wealthy people at the time.
Well, yes, but if you it's not putting links together that aren't there when you see the evidence. There's evidence to support both theories, and then what I did was I researched both theories separately, and then I took both theories like in my mind as if they were transparent overlays, and I laid them over top of each other, and I looked for things that matched up. And there's a lot of stuff that matches up.
So it's definitely worth looking into. I wonder if the guy in Indiana had a artifact that was related to the Titanic, and that's why
that's
FBI
right. The guy
there.
in Indiana. Yeah, have you heard about this guy?
Yeah, I was just talking about that before you guys came on in the first segment. Before I brought you guys on, I went off on that. I think it's regardless. Actually, I'll pick your brain about that because the break's coming up. But unless the guy stole stuff and it said in all the articles I've read that he didn't obtain the stuff illegally, then I think it's a bit effed up that they're just showing up at his house and we're going to repatriate the stuff to wherever it came from.
Well,
it's in your collection. But I'm going to cut us off because the break's sneaking up. Hold that thought, Kristan. I want to pick your brain about the subject. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. Hour 1 already flew by. Hour 2 coming right up. Stay tuned. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with hour number 2 here on tonight's live edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. I'm your host, Popeye from FederalJack.com. It is April 4th, 2014. Ooh, 4/4/14. I'm sure somewhere somebody's flipping out, doing some sort of weird ceremony. I'm sure it's not some weird.
Take your bets.
Yeah.
Illuminati.
No, it might not be Illuminati. Maybe someone's just worshiping a piece of toast with a butter melted in the shape of the Virgin Mary somewhere. I don't know what the hell today is. I'm sure somewhere, somebody is doing something very strange. Although, it is that time of the year, boys. It's April, and they do a lot of weird things here. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we are back live. My two good friends, Mike and Kristan from the Rundown Live. Mike Paczesny, Kristan Harris. Check them out. Guys, shameless plugs really quick. Everything, Twitter, YouTube, radio show, website, go.
RundownLive.com. That's the best way to find everything. RundownLive.com. We have a show Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern. We talk to awesome guests like Popeye, Ben Swan, Tyrell Ventura, Sean Stone, all these guys that you see on YouTube, and we try to get fresh faces in, and we take calls, and it's just always a good time. So rundownlive.com is the best way to find everything.
Mike just did that in his non-radio voice because it should sound like, check out the rundownlive.com. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, we have awesome guests like Scott Walter and from like the History
America
Channel.
Unearthed, right.
America Unearthed just
Friday,
recently.
Right.
And the reason why I bring that up because you mentioned artifacts. I just wanted to get back on track real quick. back to this guy who has the FBI at his house because he has these old artifacts. One thing that's not mentioned, and I don't think is detailed in a lot of other articles out there about this, is that this guy has direct ties and worked on the Manhattan Project. I think the FBI is there not for ancient artifacts that he collected from around the world, but either old diaries or artifacts or information dealing with secretive projects. Because let's not forget, Albert Einstein worked on the Manhattan Project, and who knows who else, and who knows what was given to him in confidentiality. If he collected these sort of things, he definitely would have liked to have collected things from his friends or accepted things from his friends. So that's what I think this is really about, is information. He may have diaries or who knows what of historical significance. What really is upsetting is, to me, is why did he not open this up to people like you and me, or journalists, or people like Scott Walter, who are looking for the truth and can use information like this for transparency? Because it seems like they like to make everything confidential. When you make things confidential, you create conspiracy theories. That's like, and then they get upset about it, Popeye. That's like dropping candy on the ground and getting upset at the ants who run to it. You can't create conspiracies. We need transparency.
Well, it looks like E.T. outside the guy's
house. It does. It's ridiculous.
Anybody old enough to see the movie E.T. in the 80s,
What's
90s.
E.T.?
I mean, come on. They got the tents set up outside and the command center. I mean, they don't do that for arrowheads, Kristan. You know that. We know that. The listeners know they don't set this up for old World War II helmets.
And the cars in the photos of this look like micro machines compared to these tents. So whatever this guy has, he has barns full of it. Who knows? Maybe it could be giant skeletons, joking. But, like, you don't know what this guy has. He collected ancient artifacts. He had a lot of personable friends that were important in history, and I highly doubt the FBI would pay attention to some old skulls or artifacts.
There's a high level.
It's a waste of taxpayer money otherwise.
Something is rotten.
Something's weird.
Yeah, something's rotten in the town of Denmark, okay? Because, like, why raid the guy's place? Like, I was talking about this in the first hour. I said, before you guys came on, I said, look, this doesn't make any sense.
Well, he called them. He
called them.
Oh, he called them. You
Yes,
see?
he called
You see,
them.
I haven't seen that part of the story yet. See, okay. Well, if he called them, that's even stupider. Why would you call the FBI? Why would you not?
Well, he's getting old, and we think he's dying, so he didn't know what to do with probably all this information.
The government,
but you see,
let
me ask
he worked on the Manhattan Project.
Where did you guys see he called the FBI? Because the articles I saw, at least floating around the mainstream and even in the local area around there, was that they had said that the FBI was just there, and they didn't say that he broke any laws. They just said that they were there to make sure that this stuff got sent back repatriated back to whatever country it came from.
We actually have an article on the site, and it has a link back to the source where they actually said that he actually called them, because they had a press conference. At first, it was initially like, oh, maybe he had something that he wasn't supposed to have, or he acquired something illegally. Then later in the day, like 4 or 5 p.m., they came out and said, oh yeah, by the way, he called us. You know, it's one of those.
You see, I didn't see that. You see, obviously, that got lost probably in the news cycle, and that's not as exciting as, oh my God, could this guy have stolen artifacts from countries? Could he be an antiquities thief? That's why I said, why the hell is the FBI taking this guy's property? I went off on this for like 10 minutes. I was pissed. But if the guy called them himself, well, then you open the door, dude. You can't ask the big bad wolf to come over for lunch and then.
Well, he must have told them, like, "Hey, I have this.
something. This
yes,
is like Tesla. Could this be like Tesla, where he has something that is very that was kept, or, something that could be kept secretive, or that he shouldn't have had, and he didn't know what to do with it? Or let's look at it like this: if it was something of, let's say, giant skeletons or something of historical significance, the Smithsonian, the cronies at the Smithsonian would be there. They'd be all over it like ants on sugar, but they're not. What does the FBI know about ancient artifacts?
That's a good question.
Probably
That's
nothing.
a good point. I mean,
Nothing.
If
so
there are curators there, you can't tell because they're certainly not talking about it.
This guy probably kept diaries of his work and probably had work of Einstein and his buddies and who knows,
he had a
maybe even
laboratory
Tesla,
as well.
laboratory statistics, information, and paper, and that's probably why they're really there to make sure that all this classified information or personal diaries or information is not leaked out. I don't know why else they'd be there unless he has something of some significant information on how to do something that we may not know about. Let's not forget there's other projects. We don't know what this guy's all been involved in. Let's not forget Einstein was involved in like the Philadelphia project, where they made a ship basically become invisible. We don't know if this guy worked on that same project. We don't know what kind of clearance this guy has. And it's really interesting. The more we dig around this guy, we find out more interesting stuff. He runs a museum, too, on top.
That's all fake. They don't have technology to do any of that. I mean, I know they have interactive holograms in malls in, like, what is it? I think Dubai. There's a mall where there's a section
and
where
Japan,
it's actually where they have like literally holographs that I think they say they're 7D or something like that they come up literally and it literally looks like they're real, and it's computer generated. I saw this little kid stick her hand like near the wall or whatever, and then it animates like a fake arm, like this animated arm, and you can pet this fake animal. And while she's petting it, the thing rolled on its side and everything else, and the little kid was all excited. And I mean, it looked pretty real. Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. They have that technology, but people will deny that this stuff exists. Like, That's every day. Tupac shows up at Coachella. That's normal. Okay? Well, of course, there's conspiracy theories about whether or not he's dead or not. But
well, Tupac been alive, though.
That's where I was going with that. That's where I was going with the conspiracy theories about his death.
I know about that one, Popeye.
Yeah,
I know nothing about the Tupac conspiracy.
I don't think Tupac's still alive. I think he was killed. But the reason, just a guess, and this is just from some minimal research I've done, I think they offed him because he was opening. It was that period of time where they were putting gangster rap in, and that they were trying to shift and turn the black culture in America. They wanted a political party. Yeah, well, I mean, he wanted to run for president, literally. But they needed to keep them where in that thug, ghetto mentality, just like that way. They needed to fit a certain stereotype to affect a lot of different changes. Nothing positive, by the way, but they needed it to keep people fighting amongst each other, keep this faux racism that they keep boiling, underneath everything, and then every once in a while they bring Al Sharpton and stuff out for that. All these different things you need a stereotype in order to pull off a lot of this stuff and to pull off this much larger agenda of dividing and conquering the country as a whole. And I think because he was speaking truth to power to the black kids and telling them about the Illuminati and telling them, straight up the way the government was, telling them not to believe this crap, to educate yourself. He was telling, he sung, as hardcore as Tupac was, he sung songs about treating women right and not calling women bitches and hoes. What do you see in music today? Every other word is bitch, ho, yo, this bitch is on my jock, blah, 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 right?
What? Ugh.
Right, I mean, there's no lyrics anymore.
They even bark now.
It's not even lyrics. It's just,
hey, I have a question for you. How about the song I Walk It Out? What was the guy thinking? He wrote a song, I Walk It Out, and then he's like, what song great after that? I Walk It Out. Well, what would sound good after that? I Walk It Out, I Walk It Out. The whole song is a guy walking it out, and then they walk west side and east side, and they just will keep walking. What a horrible song.
But there's no value to the music. Music was never about entertainment. Singing originally came about. That's how they passed information, because people weren't always literate. Most of the populace, only the rich elites could read. So if they needed information passed from one area to another, people would sing it. I mean, Homer's Odyssey and the Iliad and the Odyssey, right? If you read, if you know anything about them, the English class, they probably don't do this anymore, but the reason why they were the first big books you read in like high school English, because they were the first, big pieces of literature that came out ever. And they weren't originally written down. The original stories were sung. He was like a
like nursery rhyme style, probably.
But that's how Homer was illiterate, and there was one other guy too. Oh, I can't remember his name right now. It's horrible.
Hey, that's how we do at the rundown. We sing you the news.
No, we don't actually do that. And then a quick side note:
the opera.
I forgot. I was gonna say something about Tupac. I forgot already. I don't even remember now. I'll remember in a second.
It was my singing that did it.
Yeah, it was. It was that high note. It just like it took away my memory.
Yeah,
like
the knocked you right off, just right out of balance.
Some Earth, Wind, and Fire be like, "Shining star for you to see."
Oh no!
My life
bring it back. His gracious voice brought brought it right back to me.
Right.
No, seriously though, Tupac. Towards the end of his career with the Illuminati stuff, he wanted to stop people from even talking about the Illuminati. That's what he was all about with the Kill Illuminati. He wanted people to stop believing that they were powerless and that, that was a big thing.
He wanted to show people the opposite, that look, yeah, the Illuminati exists and they are real, but you're not powerless and you can stand up to these people. And you can't have someone like that. Especially
strong, you don't, and you see what we push today. We don't push strong male figures.
Well, we need people like that. The black community needs people like that. All communities need people like that. But at the time, with the way they were twisting rap music and gangster rap and everything, I mean, now it's hip hop, but back then it was different. Ice-T came out with Cop Killer and stuff, and I remember all that. I mean, they had to keep this certain culture going, this cultural stereotype, I should say, going.
I'm down with the rap revival. I want some Cop Killer songs. I think that's freedom of speech, and with all this crap,
I'm all about freedom of speech. But you see my point. Like as a whole, like people have to understand, like the counterculture movement in the '60s, all the pot smoking hippies. That was created by the CIA, right? That wasn't created by a bunch of people. Oh, peace, love, and harmony. That was created by the CIA. Everything is controlled. Any huge movement like that is controlled. Look at Occupy. Occupy got taken over, right?
I don't know if he was. I have some doubts.
CIA
I have some.
Listen, I don't have any doubts. I know it to be true. I've seen more than enough.
Well, when you talk about like LSD and Timothy Leary and some strange things like that, but I think that the culture was ready to fight back. I mean, look at Vietnam.
I'm not saying to fight back. Yeah, the counterculture, the hippie culture, the pot smoking.
They were co-opted, just like others.
That was just like you see what they did with Occupy and anything else, the Tea Party, anything else that actually might go up against or bump the status quo or actually might get people to think outside the box. It quickly gets taken over and twisted for their own agendas. Okay, I'm not saying that the hippies in the '60s and the peace rallies and all this stuff didn't help. But honestly,
we need that today.
Well, that's why I think the liberty. Well, I think that's why the liberty movement is different. I think that's one of the hard things that they're accepting is that they're not able to control the liberty movement right now. They're not able to control freedom of speech. They're not able to put a lid on things. News gets out faster nowadays than they can twist it. So people are able to have the truth and be able to make good decisions. That's why we have things such as conspiracy theories, period, is because people are able to now have critical thought, and there's people out there preaching this kind of awakening. I kind of agree a little bit with you there, Mike, but at the same time, I agree with Popeye too. So
we're just a big agreement fest. That's what we are.
I have to also
let's hug it out, guys.
I'm gonna do what you guys.
We're feels today.
Oh, don't even bring that thing up. That thing is creepy as hell. That feels thing. Ugh. I actually went into the meme database just to see where that creepy thing came from, because that thing is that creepy alien head meme thing.
If anybody doesn't know, we're talking about the Feels guy. He's the really famous meme. Just type in Feels guy on Google and he'll come right up.
Yeah. Mike posted it on Facebook.
He's got time for that, Mike. Jeez.
He posted this thing on Facebook as a content.
I'm an internet connoisseur. Creepy. You have to know what's trending in the underbelly of the web, and Feels he's a very popular interweb character.
Ugh, dude, creepy is the only way to describe that thing. Right? Just creepy Creepy beyond creepiness. Like, he even made me forget what I wanted to ask you because of creepiness. That thing is just, now he's got me stuck on the feels thing. It's in my head. I can't get the memory.
It could have been anything at this point. I don't even know. I was briefly talking about the damn Albuquerque situation, which is
that's going crazy
out of hand down there.
That's
going on right now. There's another protest right now going on.
We hear that they're bringing in MRAPs.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me. They have these toys. They need to use them. Here's how you stop, by the way, the whole MRAP usage. Everybody's like, oh my God, how do we stop it? You go to your local city council meetings and you push to cut funding to the police departments. And one of the first things that needs to get cut when they do budget cuts is their special toys. So they'll end up keeping that thing because it was given to them for free. Okay, so if they end up keeping it, that's fine. I've seen people even try to push to have the town not only not use it, but sell the thing and use the money to pay other bills. But
interesting.
You can defund. You can push to cut back funding for the police department, and you get enough people. I've seen it done, even in larger cities down here in South Florida. That was one of the reasons. I had the mayor and the police in the city next to where I used to live down in Miami pretty pissed off at me, and I had to watch out when I drove through the city, which ended up leading me to getting an FBI knock on my door and everything. Oh yeah, because the one of the local bloggers there was having issues, and I gave her airtime and got her national attention to the threats that she was receiving after she would just write articles and openly talk with the other people in the community about how they need to cut the police budget, that a lot of these cops are overpaid. They have, maybe they have...
You don't openly talk in the community, Popeye.
Oh, I know.
And you don't hand out things at the mall anymore.
And otherwise security will come.
And did you hear about this,
You definitely talk about cutting off police funding, because then they'll really get pissed off.
Right.
And that's what happened. She was getting threats. One cop got fired because he published her home address on a forum and basically told people, here's her address, go have at her. Like, go rob her house or whatever. We're not going to do anything. These are the cops in her city that she lived in.
They sound like really great guys.
Yeah, well, this cop lost his job because of that. But it's okay, because he lost his job from there. And as soon as he lost his job from there, he got picked up by the adjoining city, literally right next door, and started the following week.
Well, he's a humanitarian, Popeye.
Yeah. Look, you know what? I'm going to tell you what. I'm to the point where I'm almost convinced there aren't any good cops anymore. And I always say, oh, I know there's one or two out there, but honestly, I don't even think there's one or two.
That's where I'm at.
And you know why I know those numbers are dwindling? One of my best friends in the world, who is a deputy sheriff for 8 years. His father was a sheriff for like 30-something years. He just quit. He said, I can't do the job anymore. He went and got a different job. He's still in, I guess you could say, law enforcement. He's working as something else in the aspect, but his job solely helps people. He's not out.
Well, props though for having a little dignity to find, take a chance and do something else.
Well, I mean, I asked him. I said, what were the reasons? And besides, it was it was a little bit better pay or whatnot here or there. I mean, he did have some perks that he's going to lose, switching jobs or whatnot. But he told me basically that he couldn't tolerate the idiots he worked with anymore. He said, I said, what, too many jackboots? He's like, yeah, there's just too many guys on the force they want to beat the crap out of everybody, shoot everybody, tase everybody. He's like, this isn't what I joined up to be. He's like, I didn't join up to go around harassing people in my community. I'm not doing that. And he did it for he was a sheriff for 8 years.
He's probably a good sheriff too, and he probably didn't harass people. And
I know he did.
Job right. Yeah.
He's probably the type of guy we want in there. We told Eric Harrell the same thing, who was on our show, who was he was being, what was he? He's under
he wore the mask.
Investigation. He wore the anonymous mask while protesting Obamacare.
And it turned out he was a cop, right?
It turned out he was a cop, and it was the same type of situation. He's like, I don't know if I should quit. No, those are the type of people we need to stay in there and fight for liberty and say, no, this is the wrong thing. What he should have done is like get in there and cause a lot of trouble, made him fire him. I mean, that's what I would have done. I would have caused hell and made awareness of the issue, I guess. I'm not saying taking anything away from it, but at the same time, I feel that at that point, that's when you have a responsibility to be brave and stand up.
They should stand up, but that's why he just said, I'm not, and I don't know if I'm assuming, because I haven't gotten a chance to get too deep into it with him, But I'm assuming that I know that he had, issues with things, even when we were in the military together, because that's how I met him. We were stationed together in the military. And, even, him and I had conversations about, would you do this? Would you do that? And he flat out told me no. He's always been that type of person of conviction where he wouldn't do it. And I think he just couldn't take it anymore. And it got to the point where, I know it's been on his nerves for a while, and he's just done with it because I understand the other side, like knowing people that are there that are the good ones that try, they get run out. They open their mouth, and the next thing you know, everybody's ostracizing them, they
look at them like cancer, and they think, it might spread, and then shit spread.
Well, that's what they do, and then they close ranks away from him or that person, him or her, to keep that person on the outs. Now that's not what happened to him. And he left on good terms, with everybody, but he was just, he was smart the way he did it. He didn't burn any bridges or anything like that, but. He's had his fill. He's over it, and I don't blame him. I know a lot of people that have done it over the years. They're just like, look, I had the opportunity to be a state police officer in New Jersey. I mean, and that's good money. I mean, to get into the New Jersey State Police is not easy. It was a friend of mine, a Marine buddy of mine, and I went for the interview, and I got it. Okay, and I got the job offered to me and everything. And after a long thought out process, I called my Marine buddy up and I was like, "If you want it, you take it," because I know they always, if they offer whoever they offer to, there's always the backup. They'll always tell them, "Look, we'll have your application and if blah blah blah." So I told him, I said, "If you want it, you can have the job." And I offered him the job, and I did not take it because I just didn't want to. I couldn't put myself through that. I couldn't put myself in that situation where I worked for. Someone or an agency that I didn't believe in. I didn't want to be somebody that pulled people over. I didn't even want to be a dispatcher for them. I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to be generating revenue. I didn't want to be, making any money for a system that, again, I just didn't believe in. I already didn't trust the government, and I was raised to always question authority and ask questions and demand answers. Not to be a rabble rouser to the point of screaming and yelling all the time, but at least question authority and ask questions. Do so respectfully. But so is what it is. By the way, I want to just switch gears for a second because we got like 2.5 minutes before the break sneaks up. On the other side, I want to get into I don't know if you guys saw this article. I was talking about this earlier. 10 things Idiocracy predicted that would happen and sadly already have. I'll drop you the link. This is what I want to pick your brains about.
Which is like one of the most underrated movies ever, by the way, if you haven't seen that.
Yeah, it is. A lot of people have no idea. Let me put this in the chat room there. A lot of people have no idea what that movie is. If you don't, that was one of our favorite flicks to screen back in the day when we used to do screenings and stuff. We used to have a couple of people that were involved with Federal Jack. That were attended some of the local colleges around here. So we used to get access to all the screening rooms and put on free screenings for everybody at the colleges. And our top movie we screened was Idiocracy. And when we used to get asked why we would do question and answers afterwards. And the number one question was always like, how come you guys are airing this? I thought this was going to be, something about with question and answer period and information. And we said, it is. And they, well, why did you air it? And I said, did you notice any similarities? And back when we would air it, people would go, "Oh, it's not there yet. I mean, I'm sure it looks like it could get to there, but this is like the extreme version." And we agreed. And we said, "Yes, this is the extreme, but this is where it's headed if we don't put the brakes on it." Just like if you're looking at if you're on a set of train tracks and you're in the train and you can see a mile ahead with the binoculars, and you're like, "Oh, snap! The bridge is out. We gotta put the brakes on." You know what I mean? Well. Here we are in the future, and it's a reality. How many times does this have to happen? By the way, with things where, something that we talked about 5, 6, 7 years ago, people go, "You're crazy conspiracy theorists." Now it's reality. I mean, literally, when I go over this list, it's ridiculous. You're going to be like, "Wow, it really is." And that also brings up the point that, again, like I talked about in the first segment before you guys came on, CNN focusing on the plane all the time. A month ago, if you mentioned conspiracy to them, they would have bashed you, made fun of you, everything else. Ha ha ha, you crazy conspiracy theorists. Now, their main reporting is about whether or not the plane was hijacked, taken to Diego Garcia, whether or not it's on the island where Lost was. I mean,
Hey, did you ever listen to my episode where I called it? I said it sounds like the CIA.
We are back, ladies and gentlemen. Final segment. Mike and Kristan, go check out the Rundown Live, everyone. They really do a great show, these two, as you can see. That's why I like having them on. I especially like having you guys on Fridays, because it's like, weekend, no holds bar. We just, let the show go off the rails and go wherever it may, because you guys are very well versed in a lot of subjects. So, the conversation can go all over the place, and it's in-depth, and there's always good information coming out. So here in the final segment, I want to pick your brains, as I said, about this article. And I think I gave you guys, I gave you guys the link over on Skype. 10 things Idiocracy predicted would happen, and sadly, already have. And then if we have time, we can get into Nazi UFOs, Kristan's favorite theory and thing to talk about. But first, let's get into, the 10 things that Idiocracy predicted would happen, and sadly already have. So it's over on mandatory.com. And I'll read you basically the list. It's easier than just reading the whole article. But I do urge you, go to the chat room and check out the link in the chat room. Again, it's over on mandatory.com. 10 things Idiocracy predicted would happen, and sadly already have. Legitimate businesses peddling smut. In the film, major corporations such as Starbucks, H&R Block, and yes, even Google, if you look close enough, offer up adult services to accompany their regular services. Of course, in real life, Google has always been against porn, nudity, and even foul language, but with the onset of their new product, Glass, they are having a hard time stopping it. And obviously, if you look in any advertisement for anything now, sex, it's pretty much sex everywhere. I know that they used to actually try to hide the word sex or phallic symbols inside of things, but they don't even try anymore. It's usually just a half-naked chick, licking a glass, and the contents of the glass aren't even what they're advertising. It's the pair of jeans.
Starbucks girl is a stripper, and the Google O is boobs.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Real advertising.
Well, right,
Yeah.
but again, Idiocracy predicted that, and back when the movie came out, people would have been like, they would never do that. There's decency laws. They would never get away with it. Yet there is. Another thing that the movie predicted was ads everywhere. Like everywhere there would be an ad. Well, look where you are now. Remember, when the movie first came out, Google didn't own YouTube yet. So YouTube wasn't full of ads. Your cell phone wasn't full of ads, which it is. Open your email, full of ads. And
their TVs. Remember when they watched TV, there was like constant ads all over the screen. It wasn't just like one commercial playing. It would be like 30 million ads, almost like pop-up style, all over the place. I think they even came out like holograms.
Which is pretty close to what they're doing now. Okay,
right.
Ads literally everywhere. All right, and then profanity in advertising. Now, if there's kids in the room, get them out, because there's going to be a little profanity here, but it goes along with the article. So we're all adults. So profanity in advertising. In Idiocracy, there are quite a few advertisements and even company names themselves that use profanity to hawk their products, i.e. buttfuckers being the standout. Carl's Jr. slogan in the film is, "Fuck you, I'm eating." And then there's this guy, and they have the picture. It says pictured left, and it's a picture of for like a cigarette ad, and it says, "If you don't smoke Tarlingtons, F you." And it's just some guy standing there shirtless. So like a half-naked dude, there's the sex in the ad, and then blowing out the smoke from his mouth, and then just being foul-mouthed.
He looks like Arnold.
Will Ferrell. Is that Will Ferrell?
No, he looks like Arnold.
Right,
it does look more like Arnold.
It does kind of look like a cross between if they Photoshop
Will
Ferrell and Arnold together, and then in the in real life you have ads for like Frank's Red Hot touting, "I put that bleep on everything." Well, it's literally getting to the point where it's okay. Like, I have a foul mouth. I do. On air, I usually have a very clean mouth, unless I warn everybody that I'm going to swear for context. But or it's Hanger 18, then it's, uncensored Popeye when he goes on air. But, I have a pretty clean mouth on air. And when I'm in public around old ladies or kids, I try to curb my mouth because that's the way I was taught. But now it's just, there's cursing, swearing, sexualization all over the place in these ads. Okay, once in a while it's funny, but sometimes it's just too much. All right, next thing. In the film, customers can order big-ass fries for tacos and all these other unhealthy foods, right? Well, what do we have? super size, extra, extra large, biggie size, whatever the hell, extra grande. Right?
I love me some big ass fries.
Right, exactly. The big ass chicken with the big ass burger. It just kills
the big
me.
ass girls, huh?
Yeah.
That's what it comes from. That.
I swear to God, hey, people, if you don't know, Mike Judge, that guy's a prophet. I'm telling you, you got to go watch Idiocracy. This movie was way ahead of its time. It's one of those films that nobody.
Is it Mike Judge?
Yeah, the guy.
Yeah, he's a genius. Beavis and Butthead.
Beavis and Butthead.
He's
Mike, run down knife.
King of the Hill as well. I mean, come on now. It's not the same, but it is in a sense that it takes a snapshot of one piece of society, in every sense, whether it's like teens with Beavis and Butthead, or Idiocracy, the future of mankind, or King of the Hill, like a redneck in Texas. He does a good ass job of putting that in real perspective.
I'm telling you, this guy, he knows what he's talking about. Just sometimes artists have a way of showing you their perspective on things through their art. Well, that's not sometimes. Usually a good artist, that's how they express themselves, right? And Mike Judge he's no different, and he really has a way of getting a point across to you. The first time I saw Idiocracy, I was like, I understood it. I was like, he's trying to tell us something with this movie, because it was around the time that I was like, why is everybody so freaking stupid? The first time I saw it, before we had ever screened it, when the first time Idiocracy came out, it was right about the time. Well, I was already somewhat awake, but I was still. I didn't know about the purposeful dumbing down, and that about fluoride, but not about the educational system and everything else. And just about the time that I was starting to research all that stuff was about the time that I saw Idiocracy, and it was just like one. So I understood it, but most people, any of these movies that mean anything, it's amazing. They never get it. It's either if they mean something, the artist is trying to tell you something, they don't get it, or if something is hidden in there on purpose, like a movie.
Well, what about the whole GMO angle with the growing of the crops, and they'll never grow back, and you got to buy the what is the electrolytes? I forgot what the name of the brand was, but you had the
sounds pretty close to reality.
Electrolytes make it grow, and then they found out
non-GMO seeds.
Yeah, when the guy
don't use heirloom seeds, those are bad.
Lets them all know, like, no, you need water to grow, and the reason it couldn't grow is because you kept salting the earth with electrolytes, and they're like, but electrolytes make plants grow. They were just brainwashed, and that's like pretty much what we have today with like the media and Common Core education. You just repeat these little slogans and sayings, right?
Well, it's like the Pledge of Allegiance. Our kids don't even know what it means before they have it memorized, right?
Or the flag.
So shouldn't
itself.
they know the meaning of it before they actually repeat it over and over again? I'm a complete patriot. I'm just saying,
Well, I'm not a huge patriot in the sense of the flag is just the symbol types. I don't want to sound too nationalist. You know what I mean? But I think Kristan just hung up there on accident. But no, I just hate the sense of being a patriot, because I'm for human rights and open borders and working together in a non-communist sense.
You're evil. Are you a damn commie? You red bastard.
No, not definitely. Yeah, I'm definitely an anarchist. I'm definitely for voluntary interaction. Yeah, I'm definitely all for if you want to run the nuclear plant, then go right ahead. It's pronounced nuclear.
Who's going to pay the people at the nuclear power plant?
I pronounce it the other way.
That was
pronounce it like George Bush.
That was a Simpsons quote. I don't know. Only some of the listeners might have got that, but anyway.
Well, I pronounce it the improper way because I'm from New Jersey, and we also say radiator. It's really called a radiator because it helps radiate the heat away. But no, we call it the radiator because that's how we roll in New Jersey. We butcher the English language, which, by the way, butchering the English language is another one of the things that Idiocracy predicted, which you only have to look at what texting and Instagram and Twitter have done. Limiting people down to 140 characters for what they're going to say, that really narrows their mind down.
Well, TMT, BOB, you know what I'm saying, bro? I
never realized that there was so many things that are over 140 characters that I wanted to say before.
Right? Like, have you ever tried to say to remember the new YouTube comment section is kind of interesting. I used to hate it, but because they merged with Google Plus, you can put links and stuff in there now, and which you couldn't do that before. But remember back in the day when YouTube used to have like the ultimate comment. You used to be able to put like 2,000 characters in it, 3,000 characters, whatever. You could leave like epically long comments. There used to be huge comments.
Or chapters of a book.
Oh yeah, there used to be just like chapter long, comment battles in a thread, just going back and forth. But they limited it to like, I don't know, a couple hundred characters. In even a couple hundred characters, try typing out like 300 or 400 characters and saying something that's well-meaning in like 200 or 300 words. Good luck with that. There's actually not that many words if you think about it. I know people go, 200 words, that's a lot, but no, it's not. Especially if you're going off on somebody and dropping knowledge on them. It's not a lot of words at all. You run out of space like midway through your first rant. You're like, oh, son of a... So the only thing I use Twitter for is to spread links for the show, whether I'm going live or archives or articles or information. I do, or rarely I'll make a comment, or like when Piers Morgan was on there, I had a hobby of tweeting Piers Morgan and telling him he was a douchebag. I admit it was a guilty pleasure.
Well, he is a douchebag.
I know, but it was fun because not only would I tweet it, then like 15 or 20 other people at least would retweet it. So I know his.
And that
he's going to be remembered as the guy who brought down CNN. You know that.
I don't know about that. I think CNN did a pretty good job on their own credibility.
But that's how he's going to be remembered as.
The guy that runs the place, Jeff Zucker, right now. I think he's going to be labeled as he's turning that place into reality TV now. Literally.
Oh, I heard you talking about, their highest rated show is Anthony Bourdain. And, that's the only show I would actually stop to watch on CNN, I think.
See what I mean?
It's actually a good show, is it
because
not?
It's the only thing
tell
that's
me
got
Anthony Bourdain is not an awesome dude. He has no agenda. You know what I mean? He's just doing what he does, and he happens to be on CNN now because they're paying his paycheck.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, how awesome is that, though, that the highest rated news show, or the highest rated show on a new cable news network.
I'm telling you, when CNN gets Ancient Aliens, it's on. I'm switching back.
Yeah, I agree with Mike. Ancient Aliens is where it's
at. Just wait. Hearst. I'm sure Hearst will merge with Turner, and they'll end up CNN.
America on Earth, Ancient Aliens. You're doing all right.
And then Anderson Cooper.
They'll have
Anderson Cooper.
And then Monday Night Raw.
They'll have that guy with the haircut from the one.
Mike wants some male soap opera. WWE.
You know the meme, the Ancient Aliens meme with the Greek dude with the hair?
Aliens.
Yeah, and it's just aliens. They're going to have him. He'll just be he'll be the new Wolf Blitzer.
Hey, I'll watch it. Let's put it on right now.
Instead of the Situation Room, they can call it like the Mothership or something. And then, whatever.
Well, they can throw me in. I'll talk giants. We can talk about huge humans.
But you know what? Honestly,
Aliens Thanksgiving.
You want to know what? They'd probably have better ratings.
For sure.
Well, right. Just hire us. Look at it. We'll turn that ship right around.
Why do you think
we don't have to report the truth? I mean, come on.
As long as somebody cleans the bathroom, I hear they have a pretty dirty bathroom there.
Well, dude, all I gotta say is CNN's a joke. That's why they're 3 weeks now this plane's been missing, and they've nonstop coverage of it. During the weekend, it's like, breaking news. We have a roundtable group discussing the flight. What do you think happened? Well, personally, I think...
talking heads. Yeah. I can't believe that. 6 talking heads talking about a black hole ate this airplane. You gotta be freaking kidding me.
Dude, if Mike and I ever mentioned that, they'd never listen to us again. They'd give us...
if we mention it, we're crazy, kooky conspiracy theorists. They laugh and point fingers. CNN mentions it, and it's headline news. What the hell? You know what I mean?
It's Idiocracy. It really is.
Setting us up for the alien invasion.
Oh,
holographic.
Bill Clinton. Yeah, go. Yeah, pop
just came out.
Yep.
He was like, I wouldn't be surprised if one day aliens came. What? What'd you say?
I was in Area 51,
What'd you say, you saxophone playing bastard? Get back over here. Get back. What'd you have to just say? What?
Maybe he played with some alien genitalia, huh?
Yeah, well,
he probably has a lot of it.
I wonder how this feels.
He probably did. He probably molested an alien. He's probably a sex criminal.
Are you sure this is where it goes?
Oh my goodness, that was graphic.
Probably a friggin' sex offender on
I'm glad we're up past our bedtime. We're way up past our bedtime now.
Obviously, I've smoked the crack before you came. That's good though. Friday Night Insanity.
I can't complete sentences right now, guys. I'm having problems.
No, but seriously, with the Clinton stuff, it is bizarre that he would even come out and say this stuff. But Kimmel asked, or it was Fallon. Fallon asked him, I believe, and he was just like, "Oh yeah, I wouldn't tell you anyway." And then he did his little famous lip bite, like, "I'm just a clever liar," and he bites his bottom lip, like,
"And Pamela, I see you in the audience, and I'm coming for you afterwards."
Yeah, and then he's like looking at young blonde women in the audience.
Don't worry, Hillary will be there tomorrow to tell you about your women's rights. Oh yeah, Hillary 2016.
Oh, dude, I saw a bumper sticker the other day that said Hillary 2016, Michelle 2024, meaning
you know what's going to
Hillary
happen?
for 8 years and Michelle Obama.
It's going to be Jeb Bush and Hillary Clinton.
Yep.
How awful would that be?
I've been saying this for 4 years.
It would be the worst case scenario.
I've been saying this since before Obama got reelected. I've been saying it. I've been preaching it. I've been screaming, saying it's going to be Jeb Bush, turd sandwich, giant douche, Hillary Clinton 2016.
And Rand Paul's going to get completely frauded, just like his father did, possibly, because I did a lot of the fraud investigation, no doubt about it.
I'm willing to bet they'll put him as the vice presidential candidate, because vice president's pretty useless. Okay, vice president's pretty. No, seriously, they use him for ceremonies.
Republicans ain't winning the election, even if it's rigged or not rigged.
It's a pendulum swing. No one's going to vote liberal, Mike. I disagree with you completely. I think that you have the left-right paradigm. You have the left-right march. It's 8. Liberal, 8 Republican, 8 liberal, or 4 and 4, whatever it is. The pendulum seems to swing back and forth, and we have to admit that things are way worse now than what they were 8 years before.
I just don't believe that people will vote in another Bush. There's absolutely
they might want.
Well, no one will vote in another Clinton either, and what happens if you choose between them?
I disagree. They're already wanting Clinton.
That's why they'll do Rand Paul. I'm telling you. They'll try to hijack.
Rand isn't going to be.
I don't even think the liberals want Clinton. I think they propagandize and try to make it trendy. That
let's be clear.
Who really wants Clinton?
Who's choosing the presidency? People aren't choosing the presidency.
No, the lobbyists are. Who's going to get the most money? So who's going to be the president?
It's going to be the Democrats. It's going to be Clinton. It's going to be somebody under the wing of the Obama administration. Republicans are SOL. You can quote me, say I said it, count on it now, that there will not be a Republican president.
Unless Rand Paul runs. I think
it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
I don't think he's going to run.
Elections are a farce.
He's not going to run by himself. He won't run. He won't run by himself. He'll be a running mate if he runs at all. He won't. He won't be. I'll be surprised if they put him up as the presidential nominee with somebody else as the VP. The way to understand who's going to be the next, 2 D-bags they put out there, giant douche or turd sandwich, which one of, which the lesser of 2 evils, which doesn't matter. You're still voting for evil, by the way. Okay. That's why I don't play that game. I vote for everything else but that crap. I vote for local stuff. I vote for state stuff. When it comes to the presidential election, I don't vote for either one of them. If nobody voted for either of these 2 clowns, and they still said, well, look, 50% of the nation voted for this person and 48 voted for this, you could be like, how is that possible? If everybody in the country knew that they didn't vote except for these morons, I mean, think about it. Or if at least a large enough section of the populace knew that they didn't vote, you'd be able to at least prove that there's something going on and that you know what I mean? And even if the courts or whatever didn't uphold that would still wake up more people. It would just show more people how much of a farce this is. But you're right, Mike. They're selected. I've been saying this for a long time. Look at who they talk about, but look at who they talk about. Look in the news, because this is what they did with Obama. Nobody knew who the hell Barack Obama was, but 2 years before he ran for president, there were comments here and there. Oh, maybe this guy's got what it takes to be the next president. Things like that. When you hear comments being thrown around like that, okay, at certain people, sometimes yes, it's just propaganda or hyperbole, depending on the source. But once it's repeated and you constantly see the same names in the news over and over again, and the 2 same names I keep seeing are Jeb Bush and Hillary Clinton. Now it doesn't.
They were saying Chris Christie for months.
No, they were, scandal. But they were. But see, and I've been saying this for years. I've been saying, look, you watch. They're going to keep throwing up Jeb Bush's name, because you have to understand the I'm talking about. It's the peanut crowd. Look at Marco Rubio. suddenly this guy's running around pushing this idea for a new American century. I mean, he's campaigning, but not to you and me. I mean, maybe to a certain extent.
He's a
voters,
neoconservative. That's what
he's campaigning to his masters. That's why he's pushing their agenda. Remember, a lot of the times when these guys do interviews, it's not for you, me, or the general public. It's for their puppet masters who are watching. It's how they send messages to each other too, or they send signals that, yeah, I'm down with whatever, or yes, I did this. So I mean, you see this kind of stuff in the drama House of Cards and all this other stuff. Where do you think that they get those ideas from? That stuff doesn't just come out of the ether. I mean,
and that's why they'll never let anybody near the presidency that has any touch to the Constitution, the people, civil liberties, because all that's completely eroded and gone. So they're going to stick to their crowd of
I don't
thugs.
think it's completely impossible, however, because we saw it with Reagan, where they weren't unable to persuade people. I mean, the globalist system really didn't like Reagan. We can see that by how many attempts on his life there were. And obviously he folded early on in his presidency. After 3 months, we kind of knew that he wasn't going to do half the things that he said. But, I think that there's an opportunity.
I think Reagan is a Republican Obama.
A Paul, would be a very powerful statement. And I definitely think we could incorporate a lot of these ideologies. I really wish there was an independent out there, much like not Ross Perot, but somebody with liberty ideology. They had the money of Ross Perot that really could make a legitimate run.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah, Ron Paul is a non-viable candidate, and his son is a neocon. He fell far from the tree, and there would never be a Paul ticket, because there's a lot of people that lost faith in the Ron Paul campaign after all the shenanigans back in 2012 that went on, and the fact that Ron Paul, who a lot of people looked up to, people turned to him and was like, "Hey, what's going on? Did you just?"
They didn't try hard enough.
And not only did he not try hard enough, it's just like as soon as he got blindsided by his own team, and he was like, and he just walked away. And let me tell you something. As much as I respect him, that's not a presidential candidate. Sorry, I need someone that can get hit in the stomach and be like, "That's the best you got." Spit their own blood back in the person's face.
Stand up for.
But he was more so than the other candidates, wouldn't you have said?
But sometimes you gotta stand up for your beliefs. You gotta stand up. You had all these people behind you. You got one chance, and when you just roll on it like that, there's a reason for that.
And that's why people speculated that it was to set up the dynasty for his son, because he was retiring, and that whole thing was to set up a dynasty for his kid for the future, so that way
you see developing now.
Right, and there's a lot of people that blatantly follow him and all these other people. And look, Rand Paul is all about suing the president for not enforcing the drug enforcement agencies' policies and the federal laws that are on the books right now against states like Colorado.
Well, that's what he says versus what he votes, though. Paul Ryan does it all the time. He says one thing and votes a different way.
Well, then,
I think he might be saying to get the votes.
Wait, pause yourself.
However, their names might be similar, but their policies and what they stand for are very different.
But no, they're not. Wait, hold on. Stop yourself, Kristan. No, their policies aren't different, because you just answered it. They say one thing and do another.
They're
so
best buddies.
It doesn't matter, even if they're diametrically opposed to each other and they're arguing. It doesn't matter. You just answered the question. They say.
What I'm trying to say is they're both playing politics, essentially.
But see, that's why we have a problem, because we've allowed this bullshit game of politics, I'm doing air quotes.
Word games.
Look, I understand politics. I was a firefighter, and in a firehouse, in that situation, you have the department and then the house. The department goes out and fights fires. The house is where all the in-house stuff gets taken care of, the politics end of it. Okay, and I was involved. I mean, I loved getting involved in the politics end of things, and I learned a lot of stuff about politics in general just from that. Okay,
you learn how corrupt it is.
Oh, it's ridiculous. And I mean, just seeing what goes on, within the house, and then to the city level and everything else, it's ridiculous. Okay, this whole thing, the whole Paul fantasy, it's a joke. There's nothing to it. It ain't ever gonna happen.
I agree with you. There's a lot to it.
No, I know. Look, it's a great in a fantasy world. It'd be great, dude. In an ideal world, it'd be great. But unfortunately, it ain't gonna happen. And I foresee. Yeah, and I hope I'm wrong, but I foresee Jeb Bush, Hillary Clinton 2016. And again,
that was my original prediction, as obviously, but I was kind of just throwing the Paul out there as a hypothetical, wishful thinking.
Well, I think if they're going to use Jeb Bush, they'll sell him with either Rubio or Rand Paul. And that's one of the reasons you see Rand Paul going out and doing his thing with, with all the 50 state tour and all this other stuff. He's not selling to the people. I mean, to a certain degree he's selling to his masters, pick me. Look what I can bring in. As opposed to this guy. Look at my voting. Look how many people voted for me at CPAC as opposed to Marco Rubio and Chris Christie or anybody else. Who's the most popular guy? Blah 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 blah. Who stands the best chance? Put me on the ticket. I got a good name. I'll help bring votes. Blah blah. I'm telling you, they're all funded by the same D-bags. They all might have different personal agendas for themselves.
You're not proud of his stance against drones or his foreign policy, or
no?
I mean, there's a lot.
He sucks. He still wants to bomb Iran. His foreign policy and my foreign policy differ so greatly. It's amazing.
He's a huge backer of Israel who bombs small children in
Which
the Gaza
I
Strip.
understand.
Yeah, I have no use for a lot of the things that he does with his foreign policy. And my foreign policy, by the way, is not radical. It could be. I mean, I was raised in a conservative household, but
Well, would Rand cut off foreign aid like Ron said he would, all foreign aid? Because I've seen Rand make all kinds of deals with Israel.
Well, he's a neocon, but guys, we're out of time. We're literally.
Well, it's been fun. It's been fun, Popeye. Make sure you guys go to rundownlive.com, check out our site, Popeye. I appreciate you having us back on, bro.
Definitely, Popeye.
It's always a pleasure, ladies and gentlemen. We have literally 30 seconds left. You know what?
It's been fun.
It's been a great show. That's why I love having you guys on a Friday.
Good.
It goes fast.
We're back to the weekend.
Popeye, you gonna sing to us tonight or what?
No, I'm definitely not gonna sing.
I'm joking. Popeye was singing earlier.
Definitely not gonna sing to you guys, ladies and gentlemen. As I tell you, the solutions to our problems are an inside job. I love you all. I'll catch you all again live Tuesday night. We are out of here.